Welcome. In front of me I have the new ASUS ROG Phone 9, and I'll go over unboxing along with a quick look at the device and also its specifications. And at the end of the video I'll also give you some kind of alternative if you want to have a device that basically performs as well but hits your pocket a little bit less. So another year, another overpriced ASUS, so let's just get straight into it. There we go. Okay, so here I presume we have a case and paperwork. Let's be honest, no one cares about paperwork. What I care about though is little seals that don't rip apart. There we go, that went way better than on the previous one. So we have the case and then the phone. Now this looks identical to the Pro. I genuinely, side by side, I think I would be able to tell a bit of a difference with the finish at the back. Disregard the display, both of them have this. Anyway, below here we have cable. And that is a Type-C to Type-C braided cable. And nothing else in here. Now I want to point out a very curious thing. There is enough space right here to fit a charger. The reason why I'm pointing that out is because right here we have the case, the phone, cable, and no charger, but there is space for it. This box offers exactly the same amount of components inside. And I come to on here. This is such a waste of space. There's literally half the box that isn't filled with anything, and it's designed to be big for the sole purpose that it's to be big. Probably because you get to pay $1,500 for it. But in any case, here's the ASUS ROG Phone 9. Now, starting off with the display right here, I will say I'll just talk about it. I don't want to go through the setup right here. So it's a 6.7-inch display with a resolution of 1080 by 2400 pixels. LTPO AMOLED display, 1 billion colors, 185 whopping hertz refresh rate, HDR10. I want to stress that is HDR10, not 10 plus, meaning that ASUS decided to be a scummy bunch and just not pay for the certification, because you would need to pay for certification to have HDR10 plus. And this device is well capable of getting the certification, as it's providing us with a whopping 2500 nits of peak brightness. It also has an 88.2% screen to body ratio and a pixel density of 388 pixels per inch, covered with a Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2. And if you're interested on how the actual screen looks like, I'm gonna bring the other device, which I did set up. This is the 9 Pro, but display wise, it's exactly the same kind of display, along with even the refresh rate being the same. So you can see it side by side. It's the same phone. Here are the bezels. So yeah. Also, kind of want to give you the comparison from the back. So you can see this one doesn't have this kind of like weird perforated looking mesh kind of thing here at the back. So it's just kind of more of a frosted glass with the display being somewhere here. And this one also has some kind of display right here, or just lighting up whatever it is. But it does look a little bit different at the back with just the frosted glass and kind of shiny portions of it, the finish of it. Other than that, the shape, size is exactly the same. Now, so with the display out of the way, let's talk about the cameras now. So flipping it over, we have what looks to be a triple camera setup, and the main sensor is a 50 megapixel f1.9 aperture 24mm wide lens with a gimbal optical image stabilization. 13 megapixel f2.2 aperture 30mm 120 degree ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel macro. And with those cameras you can do 8K at 30 frames per second, and 4K gets you 60 along with slow motion of 120, and obviously 1080p does the same thing plus 240 slow motion. 720 has now 480 slow motion, and that apparently supports HDR10+. Then the selfie camera, which you can see right here, houses a 32 megapixel f2.5 aperture 22mm wide lens that does measly 1080p at 30 frames. A bit disappointing for the price. And those are the cameras here. Now moving on into the internals of the device, this phone actually has a bit of a bigger battery compared to the Pro version of this phone, which is kind of weird, but it comes with a 5800 milliamp hour battery that supports wired charging up to 65 watts and a wireless charging of 15 watts. It also is powered by a Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, which is the fastest Snapdragon and the highest one that right now you can get for Android devices. It comes with a 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigs of storage at base entry, but you can spec it out with another option of 512 and 16 gigabytes of RAM, all options being UFS 4.0 storage type. Now there is actually a faster storage type nowadays, being the 4.1X or whatever it's called. I think the new OnePlus 13 uses it, if I remember correctly. So that's basically everything that there is in terms of these specifications. In terms of the build quality, we have aluminum frame with capacitive touch buttons on the side, power button, volume rockers, fingerprint under the display. On the left side we just get the Type-C charging port, and at the bottom we have another Type-C, SIM tray, speakers, and a headphone jack, and at the top we have nothing. I want to point out, even though we have just one kind of speaker grill right here, the device actually puts out pretty decent sound right here. It has nice bass to it, so it sounds pretty good. And it's also gonna get pretty loud considering it's just a candy bar phone. So that's the device. Now, last thing to probably mention about the device itself is its price tag, and this device comes at whopping $1,000, which is pretty wild. So outside of being an ASUS and just having a bunch of software catering towards gaming with like battery optimizations and performance modes like that, it honestly, I don't think offers enough to justify this price tag when there are options that, other options more specifically, that offer very similar specifications for much lower price. So enter the Red Magic 10 Pro. It's basically specification wise the same device as this one, having the same processor, the same amount of RAM and storage at entry, if I remember correctly, right? Oh no, it can actually get spec'd out to 24 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. This one can't. But that being said, the $1,500 version of this device can. Now, in terms of battery, it has a much bigger battery at 7,050 milliamps compared to the 5,800 right here. Charges faster at 100 watts instead of the 65. And other than that, camera-wise, double 50 megapixels and 2 megapixel macro. So we have a wide and ultra wide at 50, and a 16 megapixel wide sensor at the front, which you can see because it's under the display, giving you this gorgeous edge-to-edge display with no interruptions. And furthermore, the selfie does 1080p at 60 frames for lower price. This one doesn't. And in terms of the back ones, it also does 8K at 30 and so on. So in general, you have either same kind of performance or better performance than the ASUS at, and here comes the kind of like a drum roll, $750. or euros, which would already include the tax. This one doesn't include the tax. So you get better device for less money. And furthermore, if it comes down to gaming alone on the Android device itself, this will also outperform the ASUS, though I haven't checked it, but I'm pretty sure about it, in extended benchmarks. And the reason for that is, this device is just a typical candy bar phone. On the other hand side, this comes with active cooling. These are vents, and they are on both sides, and there's actual air passing through this, cooling the what is it? Oh, whatever. The processor, basically. I forgot the term for it. But the processor, allowing it to have higher clocks for longer period of time because it's being actively cooled, unlike these ones which are passively cooled. All the other devices that don't have any kind of active cooling are passively cooled, and the way it works is it tries to dissipate heat through the back cover and the frames and stuff like that. This one just does it with an active cooling, and you don't need to use it if you don't want to. Now the downside here is, because of the active cooling, you don't have waterproofing and dust proofing. But if you want to have a device that can game at max settings for basically infinite amount of time, this is the go-to. And also, ZTE offers same kind of specifications, better cameras device, and no capacitive buttons on the side, as this one also had the buttons for gaming. For the same price, that would be the Nubia Z70 Ultra. So it has much better cameras, but not really gaming performance, and at that point it also has water and dust proofing, as it's ditching the active fans if you're interested in that. And one thing that I really like here, you can see there is no camera bump right here. It's completely flat. Also comes with a case. For less money, you get a better device. So if you're interested, I highly recommend checking this out. It's basically the best bang for buck when it comes down to gaming devices, offering you the best you can get at much better price tag. It's obviously gonna skimp out on some things in terms of build quality and stuff like that, so it's not necessarily the most kind of flashy and premium feeling device with very harsh edges, but it's going to perform really well. So anyway, with that being said, hope you found this very helpful, and if you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.